They looked like the perfect couple. He was hardworking, dependable. She was kind, devoted, and full of life. But what started as a story of love and trust would end in blood, and a lie so twisted it fooled an entire town. Laura and Mark lived in a small Georgia town where nothing much ever happened. They had a cozy house, 2 cars, and a routine that never seemed to change. To their neighbors, they were the definition of stability. But friends close to Laura saw the cracks forming long before tragedy struck. She'd stopped smiling the same way. She'd started covering bruises with long sleeves and making excuses for Mark's temper. At first, she said it was stress, that Mark's job was getting to him. But then came the late-night arguments, the slammed doors, and the silence that followed. By early March, Laura was secretly looking for a new apartment. She even told her sister she was planning to leave him, but wanted to do it safely. Then, on the night of March 27th, everything went wrong. At 6:40 in the morning, a 911 call came from a quiet neighborhood. The caller said they'd heard gunshots and a man screaming for help. When police arrived at the Benson home, Mark was sitting on the living room floor. He looked pale, clutching his arm, and claimed he'd been shot by a burglar. Officers rushed past him and found Laura. She was lying on their bed, motionless, 2 gunshot wounds to her chest. The room was spotless, no sign of a break-in. Only a single handgun rested on the nightstand. Something didn't add up. Mark said he'd been asleep when he heard noises. He claimed he ran to the living room, confronted an intruder, and got shot. But his wound was barely a scratch, a clean graze that officers knew didn't match his story. Then came the first red flag. There were no other footprints inside the house except his and Laura's. The gun had no foreign prints, only theirs. And the trajectory of the bullets matched someone standing near the bed, not a stranger fleeing in panic. Detectives began digging into Mark's life. What they found changed everything. Just 3 days earlier, he printed out an insurance policy, one that made him the sole beneficiary of Laura's $300,000 life insurance. And in his browser history, they discovered a search that read, "How to make a murder look like a home invasion." But the most chilling evidence came from Laura herself. A text message to her best friend sent the night before her death. "If something happens to me, tell them to look at Mark." That single line would become the anchor of the entire case. Mark was arrested a week later. When police questioned him, he kept his story straight. He insisted that he loved Laura, that someone else must have broken in. But the evidence spoke louder than his words. Gunshot residue on his hands, a blood pattern on his shirt proving he fired the weapon at close range, and neighbors who testified they heard 2 gunshots, then silence, no footsteps, no car speeding away. In court, prosecutors argued that Mark had planned everything. He was in debt, his marriage was collapsing, and he saw Laura's life insurance as his way out. The defense tried to frame it as an accident, that the couple argued and the gun went off. But the evidence was clear. Both shots were intentional. After 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with one word: guilty. Mark Benson was sentenced to life in prison without the chance of parole. For Laura's family, the verdict was justice, but it came too late. Her sister told reporters she wanted to believe he could change. She gave him every chance, but love shouldn't cost your life. And maybe that's what makes this story so haunting, because behind every smiling family photo, behind every perfect social media post, there can be a secret storm waiting to break. Sometimes the danger isn't a stranger outside your home. It's the person sleeping right beside you. Thank you for watching. If you found this story gripping, hit like and subscribe. It helps more people find true stories like this one. And remember, trust can be beautiful, but once it's broken, it can be deadly. Stay safe.